How's it, everybody? Fanie Kok here, the manager of the global trail advocacy program at Specialized called Soil Searching, and I am fortunate enough to have been invited by Patrick, aka Patrick Jansen, one of the legendary trail building pioneers of the flatlands, the Netherlands, to partake in the 10th episode of his trail building series, where we talk about all things trails and mountain biking. In this episode, Patrick and I talk about the importance of trails, conservation, ecology, heritage, mental health, social upliftment, and just the fact that we cannot take mountain biking and trails for granted anymore, just coming out of a global pandemic. And we also talk about the concept of flow and how Patrick and the trail builders in the Netherlands have actually what's the word? Created is not the right word. How they have discovered the importance of flow in the lack of elevation. So I can tell you now, with the lack of what the Dutch lack in elevation in mountain biking, they certainly make up for in initiative. And to be able to use every single square inch in the forest to their advantage, while still taking in consideration the importance of the cultural heritage, the ecology, and your natural surroundings. So learning a little bit about Patrick's story, it is very apparent that what he has done through tracks and trails, through trail building, has not just created trails all over the Netherlands, 117 trails all over the Netherlands. It has built communities. So it is a very special thing to be a part of and to learn about the role that mountain biking play in our lives and how it contributes to our everyday well-being. So I'm just happy to be here, and thank you. You've learned quite a valuable lesson with the importance of drop a seed posts recently at Val de Sol. Do you wanna tell us about what happened there at Val de Sol?
Yeah, I wanted to check out the World Cup course, the Black Snake, and with my cross-country bike, no dropper, and we were getting to the Oakley Prism Leo's Dog section, and I looked at it and I said, I'm gonna ride it, and but I couldn't ride it, so I went over the bars. Yeah, but I'm not sure whether a dropper would have saved me though.
You don't think so?
No, because it was videoed and you could see that I was actually sitting on my back wheel, and still I was over the bar. Yeah. Well, I was doing triathlon, and one of my trainers, he got to a training and he had a mountain bike with him, and we were watching him. What's that? What kind of a bike is that? We didn't know what it was, and that must have been maybe 1988 or something like that, so pretty early. And I was really into triathlon, but mountain biking was attractive to me too. And I think I bought my first mountain bike in 1990, so it's a long time ago. And it's especially the combination of physical and the technique and enjoying nature, because you're always in nature on your mountain bike. And so that was really appealing to me. Yeah, well, I started with table tennis. Okay. And then I saw triathlon on television, and I thought, gee, that's cool, So I started doing triathlon, and then I quit after 12 years, and then I wanted to do running because that was my best leg. But then I got injured. And because I loved mountain biking, and one of my team managers, he always wanted to get me into mountain biking. I should have listened to him, but I didn't. Too late, when I was too old. And then I did my first race, and then I was hooked. Because of this combination, physics, technical, loving nature. Yeah. And then I'm a forester, and I when I started in the 1990s, we could ride wherever we wanted, and then they started to close down forests, and then they gave the reasons for that. And I thought, sometimes they told me, this or that is wrong with mountain biking, and I said, okay, you have a point. But sometimes it was just crap what they were telling me. And it's just emotions, and you cannot fight emotions. So that's when I decided to do a study on the effects of mountain biking, and that was in 2003. And then I started to build my first single tracks in 2004 or 2005, because that's the solution to all the problems. Just build good new schools mountain bike trails, and that's how I got into it. And it just started out as a hobby,
So it started out as a hobby. I mean, when did you build your first trail?
I think it was 2004 or 2005, and there's 117 now on my list. So
all over the Netherlands?
And a couple of them in Belgium and one in Italy.
Okay.
But that was just for fun.
Okay.
Well, the first step, there's some more, but it's quite a long process. But the most important step is that you get into contact with the landowners.
Yeah.
And then you ask them, you explain them what a mountain bike trail is and what the advantages are for landowners, because there are some advantages. And then you ask them, do you want to cooperate? And if they said yes, your second question is, okay, where's the no-go areas? And where can I go to find myself a place to build a trail? And if you're lucky, they say yes. And there's many that don't say yes. So it's really hard. Especially the last couple of years, there's a lot of negative emotions around mountain biking, especially Corona. It was so busy in our forest. It hasn't improved the situation. But if they say yes, you're lucky, and then you start to study the area. Where's the cultural heritage? Where are the ecological values? Where do they harvest the wood? Where are the walkers? Where are the dogs? And so it's very complex. And at the end you have a line on the map, and you go back to the forest owners and you say, okay, is this something we can talk about? And then you start your discussions. And then you explain them, okay, this is the reasoning why I put a trail here, and hopefully they say yes at the end.
There were some places where there's like intersections with horse trails, and then tell me a little bit about that relationship. How you and the people who used to take their horses out there, how that developed. And then ultimately their own kids became so stoked on mountain biking that they built a little bike park right next to the horse stalls. I mean, it's quite a special story. That's a very unique thing that happened there.
Yeah. Well, you always have to take care with horses, because when they get startled, they run.
Yeah.
So it's potentially always very dangerous for an equestrian, and you, as a mountain biker, you're fast and silent, so you can startle a horse and it will run. So you have to really take care of it. So what I did is we built a trail, a single track of about 3 kilometers in the forest that they did not own it. It was owned by the municipality, but there were mainly horse trails in there. So they felt as it was their forest, and we came in. But I had a discussion with them, and they were really, really sensitive. And then we went into the forest, and they said, we have a problem here. We're afraid that the horses will get scared, etc. I said, okay, well, if that's the problem, we are going to move the trail. And then she was looking at me, is it that easy? I said, yes, it's that easy. It's not a big deal for us to move it, to move the trail a little. Well, then the ice was broken, and then we continued, and then she said, okay, we have a problem here. Can't you do that? And then I said, no, I cannot do it because of this reason. But that was no problem, because I had a good reason why I didn't want to do it on that spot. And the third spot, I said, okay, we're going to do it, and we're going to solve it. Well, and her sons are mountain bikers, and they build their own small bike park on their equestrian center, and it's really nice. So, but of course, we see a lot of kids getting into the mountain bike sports, and because when I was riding in the 90s, we could ride wherever we wanted, but it was actually boring. We didn't think it was boring then, but now I think it's really boring because we were biking on paths where forestry machines were driving, etc. So really boring. And then we started building single track. But in this old situation, it's not interesting for kids, 300 meters straight, then 90% curve, and then 200 meters straight, and then kids want single tracks. Yeah. So what we see is that there's lots and lots more kids coming into the sport because of all the single tracks we built.
And flow, I guess flow is an important thing, right?
Well, we don't have many hills in the Netherlands, so it's mainly flat. So all we can play with is flow. Yeah. And that's very important that you make it real good. And sometimes I succeed, and when I ride my own single track, and I think, oh, Patrick, you've done a real good job. And sometimes I think, Patrick, could have been better. But it's hard, because there's a lot of trees. You have to get around.
Yeah, exactly. So how do you see the relationship between nature conservation and mountain biking? Do you think that those two live in harmony together? Like, is there a relationship between those two that what's the right word that I'm looking for? Like a complementary relationship between those two concepts?
Well, everybody who enters a natural area disturbs. It doesn't matter whether you're on a bike or walking shoes or whatsoever. There's a lot of research that prove that mountain bikers do not disturb more than walkers, which is very important because most people, even my kids, I asked them, who's disturbing more, mountain bikers or walkers? And they said mountain bikers. I sent them to bed, of course, but it's not true, it's not true. So we disturb. There's no way around it. But then some nature conservation organizations say, okay, mountain biking should not be allowed in natural areas. Well, then the discussion is over because they simply don't want it. But there's a lot of people say, okay, we can see the advantages of mountain biking for health and getting kids behind their screens and etc. But then the question is, how do we arrange it? How do we manage it? And then mountain bike trails are a really good way to minimize the effects on ecology. And we made a film on it in this series, and so I think we're doing a good job. And think a lot of people see it, but the only problem is that, as I said, some people just don't want us in the forest. Yeah, well, it was not in the Netherlands, but in Costa Rica. We were doing the La Ruta de los Conquistadores race in Costa Rica, and the day before the race started, we had a easy ride, and then we saw a hawk catching a snake, and just in front of not a snake, a monkey. Wow. And just in front of our eyes, that was something. What's happening? Interesting. That was really, really beautiful. Not for the monkey, but
yeah. I mean, but it's part of nature, and that's what.
Of course, it's war outside. Yeah,
it's war.
That's nature, That tree wants to kill the neighbor tree because he wants to live, and it's. Some people think that nature is really nice, but it's not. They're battling all the time, That animal wants to eat that animal, and it's
nature.
It's nature, it's not as romantic as some people think it is. If you know the truth, if you know what you're talking about.
What's your hope for the future? For mountain biking in the Netherlands? Like, how do you envision the future?
Well, a lot of forests already got closed down for biking in the Netherlands, and I have been trying, and I will keep trying to have the forests that are still open for free riding. You don't have to be on a trail, but you can ride wherever you want to keep these forests open. That's one thing. But I think it's very hard in the Netherlands where it's so densely populated, and so my dream is to build a network across the whole of the Netherlands, from the west to the east, to the south, to the north, and so that's my dream. And not just me. I mean, there's a lot of other people building trails and bike parks, etc. But it would be nice from Amsterdam to Germany, and from the north to Belgium, just full of mountain bike trails. So,
that's quite a dream.
it's a lot of work, but we're getting there. Yeah.